All right, so we welcome in Jamie Baker from the San Jose Sharks broadcast team. Of course, first thing I want to find out, how realistic was the bobblehead?
That's a rhetorical question, isn't it? Like, why would you even ask me that? First, is that cat real and is that Sharky real? Well, the Sharky is a cool little painting, and what's the cat's name, by the way? I see the cool cat. You got a cool little kitten or cat in the background.
Yeah, Kayla, she's just always chilling out on the desk. She always wants to. She always wants to be part. I think she wants to have her own podcast.
And just hanging out.
Yeah,
Kayla's hanging out. So Kayla's joining us, and we got a poster of Sharky. I don't know. Do you think they were? I thought Hahn was because he had a tan and rosy.
That was where I went.
More people have said it doesn't exactly look like my resemblance than people have said, "Oh, that looks like you," but it's still cool. I think it's cool, so I don't really care.
Well, I thought it was and I thought it was a long time coming, to be honest. I'm surprised they didn't do this far earlier, 4 or 5 years ago. So, but what's the new normal for you now? Now that we've kind of been shut down for a month, are you getting into like the deep catalog of the Doors? Or are you going to other classic rock at this point?
Trying to stay distracted. I live by myself, so 1-bedroom apartment. I didn't took today off, but I've been trying to go just to a trail, 4 or 5 mile walk, jog, do that. I do my daily routine, which is, the stuff that I do mentally has really come through because I'm in a good spot. Like this while it's not a good situation, it hasn't phased me mentally because I don't really worry about things too much. I'm not like, it's just everything I kind of been studying the last couple of years. It hasn't prepared me for this because I was kind of struggling for so long. I was trying to get out of my own little abyss on its own. So this is like this is a different version, and it's like, okay, here's how you handle it. You just focus on things. So, been watching shows. Watch Tiger King. I've been really into World War II stuff. Oh, so, right. And that had started before this whole quarantine, but I've watched both World War II in color documentaries on Netflix. One's 13 episodes, one's 10. And kind of the more you dig in, it's like the more intriguing. I watched one on a 4-part one on the, kind of the concentration camps and stuff. It's it's hardcore, but it's like, boy, you think we got it bad now? Go check out. Go look. No, you just go look at history. Just go look in the last 100 years. My youngest daughter and I during the All-Star break went to New Orleans. We went to the World War II Museum, and then I watched Band of Brothers, and I'm watching the Pacific. So, and then I got a puzzle going. I color a little bit and sketch. I've been writing a little bit, reading, a lot of FaceTiming with some college buddies. Like it was funny 2 days ago. He was my left winger for 3 years in college. We've never FaceTimed. Like, wow. We see each other at reunions or something like that. But, and I run into some of these, a few people here and there on the road, during the season. But everybody seems to be taking, time out to reach out to people that they don't talk to too much. So I've been doing a little bit of that. FaceTiming with my daughters every day. Got a little push-up routine here. So I'm trying to, still exercise and everything. And then just wait this out, So to be honest, I know everybody's at different levels. I felt myself getting lethargic last weekend, and I was realizing, okay, I didn't even want to look at my screen time. I'm like, but I just knew I was spending too much time on my phone, and it's so easy to do, right? I'm here by myself. I'm like, you're on Instagram. I don't really go on Facebook. But Instagram, Twitter, you start reading, go to CNN, you're reading the news, and I'm like, I never read the news. But you kind of have to right now. You got to be up to speed a little bit on what's going on. Yeah. So the last few days, I'm like, I'm cutting back on screen time, both on my phone. I'll still watch my shows, a little bit here and there, but not as much, and doing more mindful. I'm going to come up with more mindful activities. I kind of created, seriously, in my apartment, I created stations. Like I have my Train the Brain station, workstation where I write, do a little bit of stuff for work, kind of you know, I still have like, taxes or anything that I'm doing work for, a puzzle station, a coloring, kind of an art station, if you will. It's just coloring, sketching. But when you're listening to music, it's really good for people. Um, just especially with ADHD, just anything with lines when you're coloring in between lines and stuff like that, it kind of gets you focused and you kind of just keeps you in the moment. So same thing with sketching. And then, like I said, and then a writing station where I'm reading a book right now. And then I'm kind of taking notes on different things that I could potentially write about. Not necessarily a book, but, could be blogs or white paper or something like that.
Yeah,
So,
it feels like the time to like catch up on your reading. Like you said, documentaries. If there's something you kind of like had in the
yeah.
queue for a little while, maybe try. Again, like I was mentioning earlier, like I don't know, dig into some deep cuts on old music or something. Catch up there. Try some new vino, some new beers, all sorts of different things you can get
Well,
into.
you know what I wish most people were doing, and they're not, and that's why I'm going off like social media. Everybody's trying to distract themselves and all this, and I'm already doing it, and I'm actually doing it a little bit more right now. Is training their brain, and like this is an opportunity to actually work on your mental wellness, whether you have mental health issues or not. This is not an opportunity. You don't have to go out and like you already do the blog or you do this. You're doing podcasts.
Yeah.
But I see so many people going out trying to create content. I'm like, I don't really care. I don't need like. There's a million people going to go do podcasts.
Yeah.
Okay, who's going to listen to them? And are you doing it just? That's great if you want to do it to stay busy. But I'm trying to do. This is where I'm doing this as an opportunity. So I don't drink really. I have the odd ceremonial drink. New Year's Eve, someone's birthday, blah blah blah. But don't really drink. But this is an opportunity for someone to actually drink less, and it's because it's good for your brain.
Yeah.
This is an opportunity to say, you know what? I'm going to track my eating, what I'm eating, and maybe eat better because it's good for my brain. Maybe start a gratitude journal. Maybe, find a different book. Well, study how your brain handles, like track how your brain is handling all of this. Like, because there's a lot of people struggling, and what they're doing is they're coping. I know it. I fucking did it for 20 years.
Yeah.
15 to 20 years. Like if there's one guy that knows coping in many different ways, it's me. And now and I saw myself starting to do it just with more screen time. And I'm like, nope, get away from that. Your brain doesn't need to watch the news all the time. You don't need to start adding more news, especially nowadays, right? You can go get a little bit, go get a sliver of news. It's good to be caught up to date.
Yeah.
On things, but at the same time, just keep doing what you're doing. And that's kind of, so I've got my routine, and then I'm using this opportunity to kind of dig in on my train the brain routine and take it another level. And actually I'll be, as this month goes on, that'll be like, it's my station in my bedroom, train the brain station, but it's like, I'm looking into different ways to also continue work on myself from a mental standpoint.
Well, I'll tell you, I would love to see you put together like a, not so much like of a keys thing, but I've always enjoyed it on game days when you've taken a screenshot, whether it's on Instagram or Twitter, and you kind of tweet out that folder that you put together of notes.
Yeah.
And it's like, boy, that needs to be something that we can all like have a blank sheet that we can all print out and just fill in.
Yeah. I mean, it's different for everybody. Like everybody's different. I don't like, when you get into this stuff, it's up to people. Like people don't realize they need it until they need it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's what this is a time that everybody has stopped for the most part. Not everybody. 80% of the population has come to a screeching halt. And none of us have seen this in our lives. There's maybe a dozen people in the world still alive that are 102 or older that were part of the Spanish flu.
Yeah.
And so they don't remember the Spanish flu because they were 1 or 2 years old at the time. So nobody's been through this before. This is new to everybody. And it makes sense early on, okay, just trying to get through it, distract yourself. But then there's a way of like, well, how can I, and it's actually this book here. It's right behind me. It sits right here. It's The Obstacle is the Way. And it's, it talks about the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius said that. So, like, when you think about it, what stands in the way of us right now is the fact that we can't go do anything. So this is an opportunity to really work on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
What's the way to work on yourself mentally? Because there's things out there in the world we can't control. So we're all busy trying to control so many things. When in reality, the only thing you really can control is your choice. And there's so many factors at work so many things that happen on a daily basis that you don't control. Every time you get in your car and you drive, you don't control any other cars. You just don't. So you can get mad at them or not, and so I wrote an article recently for the 1991 Club.
Yes.
Which I don't. Are you part of the club?
Yes, I am.
Did you read the article?
I haven't yet. I'm still getting through. There's a lot of content coming out on there, so I'm still going through like the podcasts that Ruzi has.
So go read that. Go read the article. It's exactly what you just asked for. Exactly.
There you go.
It's boom. It's 5 pages. I went through it. I did it in one day. Douglas Murray asked me to do it. And then he got back to me and goes, "Oh, have you started this?" And I'm like, "No," but I said to him, I'm a decent writer, but I just got to, ADD, procrastinate. I got to sit down, but I kind of formulated how I wanted to do it. And I sat down one day and just knocked it out in 3-4 hours. And, it was well received by him anyway. I don't know anyone else. But it kind of summarizes the stuff I do, has a little bit of history of my training in hockey, just to kind of, I talked about how, how hard I used to train off ice. And then I'm taking some of those same skills to train my brain, but also the patience that it takes. Like this isn't rigorous training. But it's the repetition that I'm putting in.
Yeah.
And trying to find the sweet spots of what to do, so I'm tracking. So like on a daily basis here, I'm spending a lot of time by myself. I'm constantly trying to track my thoughts. Are they negative? Is there worry? Is there doubt? Am I thinking about the past? Am I worried about what somebody said? Is that my ego coming into play? Am I just in the moment? Yeah. So I'm trying to always pull myself back to the moment, be grateful. Like I'm not joking. It sounds so stupid. Half an hour ago, I got some ice cream today, and I get like I don't get it that often because I don't like to eat a lot of sugars. But so I went and got some ice cream, and I was eating my ice cream. I realized I was friggin' shoveling it in there. Like it was like the first 3 bites. I'm like, this is good. This is good. And I'm like, and then I stopped, and I'm like, hold on, like enjoy it.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. Like, you're grateful that you have ice cream right now. And that's what I did. And slowed down and had like my last 3 bites. But like the first 3 compared to the last 3, completely different. Because and it doesn't matter, but I caught myself halfway through. And the whole thing is catching yourself. When the biggest step mentally is catching yourself with anxiety or negative thought patterns or anger or anything. And then trying to pull away from it, whether you're using a breathing technique, which I use gratitude the most. Mm-hmm. Gratitude is a tool to me. When I'm driving, if someone cuts me off, like my choice is to honk, yell, scream,
just let it go,
or let it go. I used to do the other 3.
Yeah.
Now I let it go. And I have, maybe I'll turn up the music. A lot of times I just look in the horizon. I try and find a tree, the sun, something that I can be grateful for. And what it does is every time you do that, that's a repetition of I'm sending a message to my brain. So every time you yell, you're just training your brain to get angry
Yeah.
because you're sending those. That's the message, right? You're not stopping it. So when and I know this is I'm kind of running on, but this time right now, but nobody's talking about it that much because it's not out there. It's not a curriculum. Like it's just it's not a stigma. It's nothing like that. But we don't think of it as how
Uh-oh.
important training. Oh, sorry, we don't realize how important training our brain is. We educate our brains, we train our bodies, but to train our brains. So,
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because that was something that I wanted to talk to you about when you mentioned things like CTE earlier. Is I don't know if it's magnified from this season or if it just happens every year and there's just little bits and pieces that we take from it. But the Department of Player Safety, you look, at least for me, I look at Braun taking 2 headshots during the playoffs last season, Hurdle taking a big headshot, like no calls in game, no any supplementary discipline. And I'm wondering, what do you think about maybe a 3-person panel that includes like a player, a coach, and a former ref? Because just the lack of the consistency has been an issue for such a long time. And why don't you think the NHL has been able to at least find consistency in what they've done? Because you'll see Chara get away with something, and then another player will do almost the exact same thing, and he gets rung up for 3 or 4 games.
I'm not even going near last year's playoffs. I'm just going to tell you right now.
Yeah.
Not even like just. I saw it. It is what it is. That's for them to deal with. There was just a lot. Put it this way. There was a lot of controversy surrounding our team last year in the playoffs.
Yeah. Oh.
And that's it. So the other stuff, I mean, there is inconsistency. I don't know if you can create a system that's going to ever be perfect.
Yeah.
They're walking a line. It's and there's not a lot of wiggle room. It's the same thing when there's a goal scored. Like there's not a lot of wiggle room because a goal was scored. It impacts the game, whether it's goalie interference and all of that. We don't bitch and moan as much about the inconsistency in tripping, hooking, or holding calls. We may on a game, this game or that game, but not overall, because because there's a whole variance. It's not a, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
No, it does.
It still impacts every game, but these headshots or supposed headshots. When you look at the player safety, I think everybody wants an explanation when there's a controversial call, like a controversial call. Why or why not? There's like just tell us.
But I think that's the key, and I think you touched on it, is we'll sit there sometimes and we'll get some sort of an explanation as to why we called it this way. But we never get an explanation as to why we offered no discipline.
Well, and then they're, to their defense, they're going to go, well, how many times do we have to do that? So I will say this. I do not envy them for their job. I don't envy them for their job. I also will say the league, they'll never talk about concussions.
No.
Legally. They just won't, which, I mean, it's like, let's just call a spade a spade. They can't.
Yeah.
Legally, like their lawyers are like, you can't do this, but it's not even that. They've worked hard over the years to minimize the amount of head contact, the fighting, and all of that in an extremely fast, violent sport that's played at high speeds. It's like, I tell people, it's like a gladiator sport for people who've never been to a game. Like you go there, you're like, if you take someone to the game for the first time, everyone says the same thing. I had no clue how fast it was. It's like, I had no clue. I had no clue. Because people don't realize they're only out there 40, 45 seconds, and there's no out of bounds. So there's going to be contact to the head. So the league is trying to do everything they can. And that's all they can do. And they've taken major strides in the last decade. So I thought there were some inconsistencies this year. I did.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not even going near the playoffs last year.
Well,
I thought,
well,
but the bottom line is there was scrutiny across the board from the reffing. And part of the reason the game's getting so, it is so fast. Go watch some shift. Go watch a ref on a shift next time you're at a live game. Just watch him when there's watch the guy in the zone. How he can even make calls while he's trying to stay out of the way, and then he's got to join the rush and all this. These guys have really difficult jobs. There's, football's 5-6 seconds of play. Soccer, soccer.
Yeah.
Has its moments of being fast. Offsides are tight. Baseball, stationary sport. Now the ball's coming in at 90 miles an hour, so you can argue that.
Yeah. Well, you can
strike a ball.
Exactly.
Basketball, there's 10 guys, but they're right there. But you're also right there. You're not moving out of the way. And so it's.
Well, you make a solid point with the whole thing of hockey is really the one game that doesn't have the whole out of bounds thing. So.
No, there's no out of bounds, and the refs can't get out of the way. I think it's the hardest sport to be a referee or linesman.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think I try and stick up for them. I even take notes. Sometimes in my notes I put compliment the refs tonight. If they do a good job. I try and remind myself, and if I don't think they did a good job, I don't. There was a game this year. I don't know when it was.
Oh, I remember it because you had one of the funniest lines I've ever heard. You on TV with Randy, and I believe it was a game against Nashville, and I think that was the time when the officials had an open mic, and you're three fucking times, get in there, and then and later in that game, and what's funny is whoever was on your sound was Johnny on the spot because he brought you up just a little bit because you're like, yeah, this is Jamie Baker. If you could clean up the officiating, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you.
Because I asked Randy, I'm like, because he had an open mic. The ref had an open mic.
Yeah.
And I'm like, can we talk to him? Can you hear us? And Randy goes, I don't know. And that's when I did it.
Yeah.
That was in Nashville. You're right. Good memory.
Yeah, that was fantastic. That was one of the best.
You know what? Those guys have tough jobs. I think I don't have an answer for the Department of Player Safety other than give us more reference points.
Yeah.
Give us reference points so we know.
Yeah. I would love to see it compared to
just
other
give us
hits.
the reference points.
Yeah.
Just give us, George, give us the friggin' reference points, man. On why this person didn't get, why he didn't get suspended. And you say, well, we can only do so many. It's that's your job. If we have a guy out with an injury, like Barbashev last year, why was there no explanation that, there I am, now I'm going, right? Why was there no explanation that he didn't get suspended when Hurdle missed a game? I'm not going to get into Braun. I'm just going to talk about that one because Hurdle left the game and missed the next game with a concussion. Yep. And then Barbashev got a suspension in the Stanley Cup Finals for what I thought was a hit. Wasn't as bad as the one in our series. Just give me a reference point, and then I can agree or disagree. Yeah. So, but put your reference point out there for us to see. That's it. But I'll tell you what, they're doing their best. Just like broadcasters, we screw up, coaches screw up, players screw up, referees screw up. Even though it's the Department of Player Safety and they have the video and everything, they're looking at all the different circumstances, at what's going on in the game. Maybe something happened earlier. There's all these different criteria that they're looking at. So I know, we can talk about it in the span of the last year, but I think you have to broaden the horizon of where the league has come to a decade and go back and you're like, they're trending in the right direction. So if there's a
Yeah,
hiccup here or there, it's ultimately they're going to fix it because they don't want headshots. They don't want head injuries.
absolutely.
You
So
know, they don't. And that mandate has become clear, but they don't want the sport, you know, to lose some of the violence that comes with it. Like now they take care of the fighting. It's more skilled and it's faster than it's ever been. But when you look at the playoffs the last couple of years, it's been awesome. It's been mean. And
oh,
mean hockey is fun hockey to watch.
that
But during
is
the regular season, it's almost like the regular season is more skilled. So they've taken there was never really fighting in the playoffs. They've only taken fighting out of the regular season for the most part. That's where it's declined.
yeah.
And then the playoffs are just as mean. Last year's playoffs was brutal. It
Oh,
was awesome.
some vicious. I mean, Jumbo got a game for a headshot.
Yeah,
You
but
know.
it was vicious. That Vegas series was mean. That St. Louis series was, the last two Stanley Cup champions were the two toughest teams out there,
Oh, easily.
St. Louis and Washington. So, you can be skilled for the regular season, but come playoff, and I think that's great. I think that's like if someone said, "How would you want the NHL?" I'd be like, "The way it is right now." So kudos to them to getting it there. Now there's always going to be fine tuning in some degree.
Yeah. Well, we talk about last season. On paper, the expectations were pretty high for the Sharks, considering the most expensive defense in the NHL ended up being somewhat kind of porous. There was a lot of high danger chances allowed, and the Sharks say goodbye to Pavelski, Donskoy, and Nyquist. 112 points leave, and the Sharks go from being second in the league in scoring to 27th. You think that this is a case that Doug Wilson or the front office just kind of said, we're really super confident in the youth that we have coming in, and then unfortunately it just didn't progress? Or was it a system-based thing? Because we did see the coach replaced. I mean, what was your take on how this team went from being, again, second in the league in scoring and pretty solid defensively, and then somehow letting in all these high danger chances and yet number one power play? I mean, penalty. I'm sorry, penalty kill. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't know what to expect coming in. I'm just going to be honest. Like,
I mean, you lose it. Let your captain walk.
Like,
you let three guys.
I can go on and, I'm always going to promote the team and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think I said, this is going to be an interesting year. I'm not exactly sure what to expect from this team. We didn't know, like, even if some of the, some prospects, he can be highly touted. Jack Hughes, Capo Caco,
Yeah.
the 1 and 2 last year. Welcome to the NHL, boys. It's a whole different ballgame because you got to learn how to play the game without the puck. I talked to all these guys. I all the young guys, especially the forwards, Shellman, Suomela.
Well, and the names that we heard a lot last summer were Shamlevsky and Chekovic, and we never even saw them in a Sharks jersey this season.
Noah Gregor,
Well, yeah.
These type Noah Gregor. So these guys, and even Noah Gregor, Dylan Gambrell. Like I've talked quite a bit with him, and he's trying to figure out the league. He goes, yeah, it's hard because he's played a certain way. Now you're trying to play a different way, but it doesn't just naturally come to you. But you also haven't built your skill set on playing that way. And it's called playing without the puck. And how do you get inside body position and win battles? And then, so the hole on the right side was, I think, a bigger fill than I think maybe they thought LeBanc could go in and step into a 1-2, and he was inconsistent. But even LeBanc,
well, he literally bet his contract on this season.
Totally. And it's a tiered league. People don't realize it. Like, if you're on the first line, it's a different league than if you're on the third or fourth line.
Yeah.
Even if you're playing the LA Kings, Now you're going against Dowdy and Kopitar, right? That's different. So last year, LeBanc had success because we had some depth, a little more depth up front. So now the 1-2 lines, the Couture Hurdle lines are getting the 1-2 matchups. Jumbo's line's getting a 3-4 matchup for the most part with Sorensen and LeBanc. And it was a favorable situation for him. And then he was also picking up some points in the power play. Yeah. Goaltending was an issue. It just was. They couldn't mop it up when they needed to. But to me, the biggest thing, you've kind of touched on a little bit, to me, and it wasn't losing Pavelski as captain, but his mindset, the team's mindset. They said, we're not going to score. Like Pete DeBoer said at the start of the year, we're not going to score as much. We have to be really good defensively. Logan Couture, the captain, said, listen, we're not going to score as much. Tomas Hertl said, we're not going to score as much. We had like 6-7 guys have career years. We lost, the 3 right wingers in Pavelski, Donskoy, and Nyquist. So we gotta, knock it down defensively. And they did penalty kill, but not 5-on-5.
Yeah.
They're 5-on-5. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I track them every game, like 5-on-5 even strength. They lost like 43 games. They lost the 5-on-5 battle even strength like 43 times or something. They only won 4 of those games. Brutal. They were terrible. And that's a mindset. And to me, a lot of it, it's everybody. But the other factor was you needed Karlsson, Burns, and Vlasic to be good to very good every game. They take up a big chunk of money, but they're also 3 elite players. Wow. They've all won championships on the international stage, all of them. 2 of the 3 have won Norris trophies. The other one will never win one because he doesn't score enough, but he might be – he's one of the best defensive defensemen of his generation.
Well, I mean, Vlasic. When it comes to Vlasic,
so when those, I didn't see those. How many games? Let me ask you, how many games this year did all 3 of those guys play really good?
Less than a handful.
There you go. Well,
I was going to say, and I always judge Vlasic on how the opposing forward, the top forwards of the opposing team did. That was my.
But those 3 guys, if they're all playing really well, I should be able to come out of retirement, not spend much time in the defensive zone because they're getting the puck out. All I got to do is win a battle in the corner in the offensive zone, right?
Yeah.
And get the puck to them and then get my ass to the front of the net and win a battle there.
Exactly.
It's like seriously. So, and it's not just on those 3 guys, but those 3 guys they're like hugely impactful players. So I think they ultimately have to lead the way in the mindset when it's 5-on-5. They cannot play high risk hockey all the time. They have to know when to. And it's Burns and it's Karlsson, but even Vlasic, he had stretches this year where he looked dormant out there. It was like he was not involved. And we can't afford that. Like this team couldn't afford it. There was no margin of error. So we saw wild swings, They were a very momentum driven team. Momentum driven teams always scare me.
Well,
they just do. So I like where things were trending at the end of the year, but
I do agree with you that I do think things were trending in the right way. Before we came on, we were talking a little bit about Boomer on NHL Network.
Yeah.
He was a guy that I believe they talked to Brian Burke a few months back, and his take was that he firmly believed that there could be some sort of fraction in the dressing room where there might be some players that are a little upset that you had guys that made sacrifices, whether it was Pavelski or Hertl or Couture, guys that had made contractual financial sacrifices for the betterment of the team, and then they see guys like Erik Karlsson and Evander Kane come in and basically get everything that they wanted, and then they see, oh yeah, but we don't have enough term, we're not willing to have enough term or enough money, to keep Pavelski here, and that might have upset some Sharks. And then you looked at that
Yeah.
start that they had. Now, you're someone who's in the room. You talk to these guys every day. I mean, is something like that, is there a hint of truth to what Berkey is saying, that there could be, in fact, a couple guys that are just, maybe it didn't sit right with them and it took them a little while to get over that?
So first of all, I'm not in the room that much. So, I'll go on practice days, morning skates, guys are in and out of there. So, I go get my stuff and I'm talking to one or two guys. When the media is allowed in the room, like,
The switch gets turned, right?
it's off.
Yeah.
They're in media mode.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just the way the world is. So behind closed door, I mean, I don't have to know. Like, where I would really see it is calling games down at ice level at home. Heading an ice switch, but when we're inside the glass at home, and I didn't see a lot of guys yelling at each other, and I'm okay. I'm okay with that. What I saw was not enough guys buying in. They were saying it, but they weren't doing it. Because how can you be number one PK and then be so bad 5-on-5?
Exactly.
It's a mindset. PK, what's the entire goal? To not get scored on. That's it. Yeah, it'd be great if you get a shorthanded chance, but even then, you change hard. Like, the details to the defensive game were so good. They have to be. They had the best penalty kill in the NHL. Those changed 5-on-5. Now you got to add in the element. Now you are trying to score, but at what cost? At what chance? At what, why aren't you covering each other if somebody makes a mistake? So if you're out there, so I'm gonna flip another switch. If I was on the team and I'm out there with Burns or Carlson, as a third, let's say I'm a third line center, or if I'm a third or fourth line player, okay, and you're on the ice with Erik Karlsson or Brent Burns. Now, and specifically for me, because I'm a center, well, I'm like, these guys are better than me offensively. So it behooves me to, cheat offensively and not have them cover me. Like, how about let them join the rush? They know it. If they're out on the ice with Baker, it's like you still yellow light, proceed with caution. You can't always go, but go. I got you. I'm looking out for you. So these guys can be the offensive dynamos that they are. Why not? But then they can't be creating turnovers in the defensive zone. But if they are, then I need to be there. If they're going to make those, if I know they're going to make high risk plays,
which we know they are,
then I need to be there. I need to cover them. I need to be there. So that's and I don't want to just talk about those guys, but the team on its entirety just could never. They couldn't get the depth up front in the lines because of missing the three right forwards.
Yeah.
And then collectively, they were giving up too many grade A's, and the goaltending wasn't making enough saves, key saves on the grade A's. And that's what you got. And again, I think Bob Bugner and his staff did a good job. The team, it's almost like they had to go through this. It's just one of those things. It's almost like, I hate to say it, sometimes you just got to go through it. They had to go through it.
It felt like a boat sometimes, where it was, as soon as you plug one hole, another one springs, and they just couldn't plug all the holes at the same time throughout this season, with the exception, of course, of the month of November.
Yeah.
Which, again, is so frustrating. You see the October they lose the first 3 games, bring in Marleau, lose another one, and then Marleau comes in, scores 2 goals, and you're going, okay, hey, maybe this was the missing key, and then October doesn't roll too well, but then, okay, they put everything together in November, and then December comes and you go right off the cliff again, and then it's all culminated with a 1-0 shutout in Detroit, the worst team in the league, on New Year's, and you just kind of go, what happened in November? Which one is this team?
And this is the part I don't know what's being said behind closed doors. Yeah. I can tell when guys are cheating, whether it's on a change not finishing a check hard, like the forwards, you know, how fast somebody reacts on a back check, a deep pinching at the wrong time, like the wrong time of the game, a player, you know, at the end of a shift trying a lateral pass through the neutral zone. Like these are all mental mistakes. And you know they're getting talked about, but as long as they're still happening, not everybody's on the same page. And you need everybody on the same page. And sometimes a little egg in your face gets everybody on the same page. Doesn't matter who you are and how long you've been here. So I think they got away from their identity here this year. I think the culture is evolving,
Wow.
not in a good way. And now it's starting to, you know, like, and then like the culture you can start to see like certain personalities starting to, you know, it's not take over the room, but like, let's get this thing back. Let's get this thing back on track, get their identity and then go from there. And that takes everybody. So I can tell this is a true story, but like the New York Islanders, when they were winning their cups, they weren't all best friends off the ice. They were like different characters. But when they went in and they put that jersey on, they played for each other. And it was like the Islander way. And for the Sharks, like this is where the Sharks have been. And to me, like when I talk to fans or anything, they're like, what's going on? What's going on? I said, you know, I don't even get into the nitty gritty. Like we're going, you know, you're a super fan and you're an amazing fan with your passion. You're, you know, doing this podcast, you go to games, you watch games, you love it, you know. But for the average fan, my explanation is, you know, it's not nearly as granular as we're getting. I basically say, listen, in hockey, there's a hard salary cap. And long-term success gets punished. It just does. It doesn't matter.
Hello, Detroit.
Hello, Chicago. Hello, LA.
Yeah.
Right? And hello, San Jose. Minus only thing we didn't do was have that banner. But we've had long-term success here. And so there's still a good core in there and good players and good people. So the thing is that, you know, maybe this year, I mean, they picked the wrong year in the sense of the draft pick, obviously. But aside from that, I'll be very intrigued to see what happens. I know they just picked up a couple of college guys.
No.
That's all great, but they still have to go try and make the NHL. And it's not like you're just going to make it and some can be an impact player, but usually it takes time. It's a whole different ballgame. You know, I'll be curious to see what Doug Wilson does this summer, salary cap wise, how much wiggle room he has. It would be good if he could go get a number 1 or 2 right winger, because that could help kind of slot up, you know, maybe help with some of the slotting. It'll be interesting to see what he does with Marleau and Thornton.
Absolutely.
But the most important thing, and I'm not assuming, but if Bob Boughner comes back as head coach, I think he deserves it. Thought he, you know, did a really good job. He has a real good rapport and communication with the players. They'll get, you know, they were a hard team to play against. They were still battling after the deadline. I saw them battling after the deadline and they knew the deadline was over. We're out of the playoffs and they were still battling. And that was building that was like getting that identity and getting that culture back, which was a good sign. Even though they had some games here that the Chicago game, they weren't very good the last 2 periods, but they didn't have to win every game. I just wanted to see a little more consistent, you know, and I did, and so did Hetty too. You know, we talked about it quite a bit.
Well, obviously, I mean, as it stands right now, Boughner still has that interim tag on his coaching title. And I'm with you. I think Boughner definitely has, you know, at the very least, he should be the front runner for the gig. However, what do you feel about the assistants? Like, do you think Ricci goes back down to work with the Cuda, and, you know, the Sommer go back down, and they use this offseason to let Boughner find some other keys? And do you think Nabby stays up here? Because it seems like Nabby's kind of found a really good fit working with Jones and Dell.
I don't know, and I don't have a feel for it because I didn't go. It was never a question that it didn't pertain to anything. And then we were like, the season was rolling along, and then boom, we're flying home. You know what I mean? So I didn't hear any rumblings of anything, honestly. I think Nabby's done a good job. I don't know if Nabby wants to travel all the time. Roy Somner was running the defense, and he's never run the defense before. So, but if he was running I think he was running the PK. Like, we lose Dave Barr, but the PK stayed number one. Ricci, he's got a good influence, but does he same thing? Is this what he wants, or does he want to be a development coach? So I think there's two parts to all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Is this what they want? Is this what Boogie wants, or does So I have no feel for that. So, and I don't think I think first they have to figure out who the head coach is. If it's going to be Bugner, then I would make one guess that the staff will be different, in the sense, even if those guys are there, they'll add one more person. So
kind of an eye in the sky kind of a deal, like they had prior.
It could be of any capacity. It could be Boogie's right hand man. I don't know. Yeah. These guys hadn't coached in the NHL before, so maybe somebody that's coached in the NHL. I don't know. I'm just saying he's short one guy, really. They were using some of the video guys and stuff on practice and that, so I could see them maybe having, even if Sommer and Ricci are there, maybe get one more guy. So, and I don't know about those guys. They'll be that's out of my payroll.
Well, let's have a little fun here. I got a couple more for you. I don't know if you're aware, The Athletic just posted an article ranking the broadcast crews for each NHL team. Sharks ranked 6th out of the league. A lot of nice comments were included. All of it focused on the TV side, and that made me wonder a couple things. Is it more challenging for you to navigate the 3-man booth with Hedekin versus just you and Hahn, or is it more kind of seamless?
I think we've gotten to the point now, it took a few games, just from a cadence standpoint. We don't want to be jumping on each other's toes. Yeah. But I think we felt comfortable. We love working together. Love it.
You can tell a lot of the especially when it's you and Randy on the call, and no disparaging remarks towards Hetty whatsoever, but there seems to be a little more chemistry where it seems like you and Hahn have just a little bit more fun, especially on some of the little cracks, shall we say. I mean, there was I wish I could remember who the Sharks were playing, but I remember that there was a call that the Sharks had not gotten a penalty called their way the entire game until like the final minute and a half of the game. And I believe it was Sorensen got a call, and Randy said something along the lines of, and the Sharks get a call going to the box with a minute 30 left, down by 3 goals. And you very subtly just go, I sense sarcasm. And
right.
You seem to have a lot of fun with each other on there. And I think that's one of the reasons why you guys were rated so high, is because there is a lot of chemistry there.
Well, Hetty's awesome.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I think Hetty's analysis is deeper than mine. We bring our personalities. He's a more intense guy than me. He just is. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I was an intense player, but he's got an intensity about him during the game. And I come into the game a little bit more from a entertainment standpoint. Mm-hmm. And he's coming in from a Sharks, he'll there's stuff he picks up so much. He really, really knows the game, And I think the fact that he was a defenseman and I'm a forward, people have asked me before, do you guys compete? I'm like, no, we don't compete at all. I he makes me better, and I'm hoping in some way I make him better, like to push each other a little bit to keep being better from a professional standpoint. But it's not like there's people out there that prefer Hedekin over Baker. And I'm like, that's great. I think that's good, especially with this format. I wouldn't want it. I love Hedekin, I hate Baker, or I love Baker, I hate Hedekin. I'm like, if you prefer Hedekin over Baker or Baker over Hedekin, but you like both of us, that's the win.
Yeah.
That's because we're here to inform you, to analyze, to educate, but ultimately to entertain, and to do it in our own personalities. So I look for those, like, those quips, you know what I mean, with Randy. And you know how I am on the radio with Ruzi. Like, I love busting his chops. Like, I look forward to it. It's like, and that's our rapport. Now, when we get on with Hetty, it's a different type of broadcast. It's awesome. Like, I love working that broadcast. It's easier and harder. Easier, I say less. Harder because you're like, I got to hear everything Randy says, Hetty, and then you're like adding or whatever. But that's the easier part because, I might miss something, or Hetty, or I can just agree with them. But it's, making sure that you're not talking over each other. So you're so focused. But I don't think a whole lot of things get missed in those situations. Like,
Well, extra set of eyes.
I love working with him. Love it. I literally, like, almost, I think we did 5 games this year. It was like after almost not every game, but like we text each other. Last year in the playoffs, we're like, I love working with you. Even in the, we did a 3-man TV and radio. So we did a lot last year in the playoffs. So we get used to, it's just getting used to the cadence, and
Well, what's the pros and cons for you ping-ponging between TV and radio?
None now. I mean, at first, it's a different medium. So, like radio, you're painting a picture. TV, the picture's already there. So you gotta talk about what the picture is on the screen. TV, it's a collaborative effort. There's like all the people in the truck. So if when there's a goal, I'm like, go back to, Burns, Vlasic breaking up a 3-on-2 and getting the puck over to Burns with a great, and then I go, and then they'll roll the whole video. So when you see a goal, Hetty and I, we have a playback button. Usually the first replay will be a tighter shot. The second replay, when it goes back further or it's a high wide, that's us asking for it. And we've already called it. Like, we've called that into the truck to go get us the replay. This is where, so that took a long time to get used to. You got to say really quickly, like, where you want the replay to start from. And then they got to go back. They go back, get it, and then they come out. And then I'm watching it for the first time, and I'm walking through it. So, like, there's a little bit more of adrenaline, that type of thing. I'm talking to the producer in my ear. We got a promo coming up. There's this, all of that kind of stuff's going on. Radio's free flowing. You go up there, and it's Dan Rosnowski and Jamie Baker. And we're gonna bounce. We're playing tennis. We're bouncing it back and forth all night long. There's a couple of engineers and stuff that help us out, but it's more of a two-man show. So my prep is a little bit different. I love both of them. I tell people I like TV a little bit better. I did radio for 9 years. So I get a little more of an adrenaline rush from TV, but I love doing radio. It's like not by a wild margin or anything. And I love working with Dan and Randy, 2 of the best. They're different.
Yeah.
So I have to prep. It took me a little while to get used to Randy and how he preps. And then I've known Dan obviously for so long, how he preps. And they're 2 different personalities. So just like I think it's for them, they have to, back to bakes. Here we go. We got Hetty. You know what I mean? So they had to get used to us going back and forth. So it's a unique style. It's, for me, this is the most important thing. We are literally a broadcasting team. Because TV guys make more money than radio guys. And so, but this is more like, when we have our production meeting, it's all of us. It wasn't always like that. There's
Oh, really?
no, we're here, you're there. Oh no, this is a broadcast. Yeah. There's no totem pole here. We're all in this. Yeah, it's a good thing. Yeah,
Well,
it's really cool. It's a good group.
I
So
don't. I mean, you don't have to tell us the entire story, but I will say that it has stuck with me that during a game this season, I think it had to do with a blocked shot, and Hahn told you, I've never blocked a shot before, but I awkwardly bumped into a bar stool once. And your response was, once? Don't underestimate yourself, pal. I don't know what you guys are up to on the road, but it sounds like it could have been a phenomenal story. But,
there's no elaboration needed. Hundreds bumped into more than one bar stool.
well,
And he doesn't have to be on the road for it. I'm not saying do it every night, but I'm just telling you.
Well,
I will tell you. Here's a funny. He was separated. He was going through the process of a divorce, so he was staying at my place for a little while. And I come in one day, and he's got one of those things that go over your finger. When you're like
postal worker,
those
little finger condom things.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't mind. Yeah, I don't know if I wouldn't call it a condom. Yeah, it's like
Postal
it's like
workers.
A brace. It's like a little brace.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like a little spin.
Yeah, like that.
Whatever the thing's called.
Not a finger condom.
Well, no, like what
What are you thinking about?
postal workers use those when they have to touch a whole bunch of stuff that they don't want to get the germs. So they that's what they call them.
Anyway, it's like a little mini portable cast for his finger.
Okay.
So I said, "What happened to your finger?" He goes, "Oh, I got it stuck in the door." And I'm like, "Okay." And I'm like, I said, "Did you have to get your fingernail drained? Because that's how you relieve the pressure, which I've had multiple times from slap shots and stuff over the years and my own thumb." And he goes, "Yeah, I got it drained." And I'm like, "Okay, why are you wearing that? Like, it's over." He's a broadcaster. I'm like, "What are you doing? You don't need that." Like hockey players are like, even when I was married, the wife of my I had two daughters, and she'd be like, "Have some compassion." I'm like, it's a long way from the heart, I'm like, they're bleeding. I'm like, it doesn't matter. They're going to be fine. Who cares? You're like a hockey player mentality. But there's Randy the announcer. He still had that brace on. So they drain, which is it. Once it comes out, all the pulsating's gone. It's done. I mean, you got a little hole there, but it's like it's over. You don't need a cast anymore, Randy. But he didn't know that. He's a broadcaster. He doesn't. Broadcasters don't get injured very often.
Oh my Lord.
So anyway, that was a door that got stuck in a door. That wasn't falling into a bar stool.
Well,
He's great. Hey, Randy's so witty. It's awesome.
Oh, the chemistry you guys have on the air. I mean, we are. This is. I guess we'll start the kiss ass portion of the show. But yeah, we are blessed to have you guys on there because again, you guys have a really good chemistry. And it is really entertaining. I've spent the last couple of seasons this year trying to listen to other shows, listen to other games. And usually when I'd watch those, for the most part, I'd kind of mute them. I'm just watching for the game. I'm not really listening for, anything in particular. But I started picking up on little things, and it was like, yeah, you know what? You can tell Baker and Hahn, they have a good time with each other. Like, it sounds like you guys hang out with each other when you guys are on the road, going out to dinner or going just whatever. And then you hear some other broadcasts and you're like, man, it sounds like these guys probably hate each other when they're not on the air.
Everywhere's different, By the way, as you were talking about our broadcast being entertaining, which is very nice and gracious, and thank you, Carly the cat didn't agree because Carly left. While you were literally out of the screen as you were saying the word entertaining. I'm like, I don't know if that's good or not. Carly, what color is she? Is she a black cat?
No, brown,
like kind of brown
tiger stripe. Yeah. Um,
Black cat leaves screen as AJ tells Baker
he's
the
entertaining.
broadcasts are entertaining. Do 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 do. You know what? I'd be. My goal is that most Sharks fans enjoy our broadcast. The bottom line is when the team is winning, the broadcasts are better. People
Oh
like the
yeah,
broadcasters more. I've I've always wondered, like, you go to different markets, like people, you get used to. You guys are used to us,
no,
so that was the one interesting thing. This thing they did in the Athletic is they had other people from other markets
yes.
talk about, like, so that's where you get. I love getting, like, love. I mean, people like to get compliment on things. I shouldn't say I love it because it you appreciate it, you're grateful for it. Um, when somebody in the industry, might be watching a game, whether it's another analyst, play-by-play, or a producer or a director, and they kind of just out of the blue say, "Hey, I just watched your broadcast. You were really good," or something. It's not that there's more credence than if I'm walking through Safeway and I meet somebody and they're like, "Hey, I love you on the TV," but there is, you
Yeah,
know.
of course.
But the one that's more important is the person in Safeway. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So this is like somebody that understands the business, that follows it and all that. But at the end of the day, it's you guys I care about. That's Teal Together, um, Sharks for Life, all of that. So that's what we try and do. And I've always, we have the best producer, Sean Madison's. The people behind the scenes are amazing. We have just such good people. But
Well,
we
Janice
try
will
we
tell you
try and
she's
make
the
it like
best.
you guys. I want to make it so it's you guys are like we're all sitting in a room watching a game together. Like that's always been kind of my goal. I love John Madden. I love John Madden. Back when
Pow!
remember when he was in it.
Boom!
Hey, like I just like John Madden. He entertained me, but he was like, and he had like, I liked him as an announcer. So I don't try and replicate John Madden. I don't watch a lot of other broadcasts to try and learn from other guys because I just want to be Bakes. And Bakes screws up. Like I'll say a name wrong. Like I'm not scared. Like I'll make mistakes. I make mistakes every single game. And we laugh sometimes on the truck. Like Sean Madison, I think he writes them down too. I'll make up like a new word. And I'm like, oh my God. I was even watching today's Daily Shark. I screwed up. I'm like, you're such an idiot. But the thing is, like, it doesn't matter. It's like if
Well,
if you're having a good time, you're explaining the game well enough.
well, and especially when like the mistake is so, like it's obviously a brain fart or so, it's not like you did something on purpose. My
Right.
favorite my favorite mistake of all time probably is when you were with Randy and said something along the lines of the fortunate thing for the Sharks is a lot of their home games are going to be at home.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's great.
I
and
yeah.
and Randy played with it a little bit further in the broadcast, and it was a
Yeah.
great
Might as well
callback.
have fun with it.
Yeah, exactly. You guys were having a good time with it, and that's all that matters.
Shockingly, that made it on Twitter.
Everything
We
does.
don't trust me. We find out when we make mistakes. It's
Oh,
on
I'm
Twitter,
sure. I'm sure.
but it's all cool. It's all good. It's a great job. This was an interesting year. This was a challenging year, but it focused. It made us, focus our attention, our preparation, our delivery differently. So I like that. It was like it was challenging, and I was like, okay.
Well, especially with expectations being so high, you can see
And
that.
we've been winning. It even doesn't matter. We've been winning for so long.
Yeah.
What sucked this year is the Giants were in the playoffs. The A's lost out right away. I know the Niners were good, but the Warriors were having a bad year. And the last few years, even when the Sharks, went to the Stanley Cup Finals, the Warriors have been so dominant
Yeah.
that we were kind of competing for them. I bet this would have been and then the Warriors have a down year, and ultimately it coincides the same year as the Sharks. But such things happen. I would love to see them win the Stanley Cup, to parade that trophy around the Bay Area, to get more people to really going from a non-fan to an average fan. You don't have to be a hardcore fan, but a true fan. We got a lot of average fans, and if the team isn't playing well, they turn into non-fans.
Fair weather.
I want them
Yeah.
being true fans, and if times are tough or the team isn't, they're average fans. I want that's where I want to, that's where I want this thing to go.
Well, finally, and it's funny that you talk about that because I'm going to throw it back to '94 for a minute. I remember, being a fan in downtown San Jose, '93, '94. You couldn't walk 5 feet in downtown without seeing somebody in teal. It was just that whole run. I mean, it was on CNN for for Pete's sakes. It was national news. This little upstart team was taking on, David versus Goliath, the number one seed, the team that most people predicted would win the cup. And, you obviously have the biggest goal, but the thing that I've always kind of wanted to ask is everybody refers to that playoff goal, but what is your favorite moment or story just from that '93, '94 season? Like the first time that you're actually playing in San Jose. Those first 2 years, yes, they were part of the league, but that was at the Cow Palace, and now they're in the, where their actual home is going to be. And then you have the quote from Urbe with like wall. I mean, just a lot of things kind of got really cohesive in '93 and '94 and just all seemed to come together. But everybody points to the '94, your Game 7 goal. But is there something else that was there a moment in like January in the dressing room or something where you felt like, you know what, there's something special about this little group of misfits we got here?
There was, there was a lot of signature moments going 08-1 and then starting to climb out of it. Nobody knew how good Larionov and Makarov were. And then you have Ozelinch and Norton. And then you add Garpenlov. Constantine with his coaching style, which was borderline dictatorship, that he had to loosen the reins. Seriously, like Larionov was almost going to leave the team, man. He'd had it. Oh yeah, there was almost a rebellion, like when we were in Detroit. So there was stuff like that. The trade deadline, like getting Ulf Dahlin, but like when we traded for Todd Ellick, we were playing Edmonton that night. He walked around like he was over getting ready for their morning skate. Comes over, walks in our room. Nobody knew Urbe was going to be as good as he was, and so we started. The other thing is, not many people know this, but I played injured almost the whole year. So
Wow.
I was in and out of the lineup, and they couldn't figure it out. I'm like, it's my groin. And Dean Lombardi, he'd watch me on the ice. He's like, what the F is wrong with this guy? He looks great out there. Like, get him in. I go out and play a few games. And so I was, we get up near the trading. I'll never forget this. So I could never, I just couldn't get the system. Like Constantine was really hard on the third liner, like left wing lock. I couldn't even skate backwards.
Jeez.
Like I didn't know how to skate backwards. I mean, I could skate backwards, but not to play in the NHL. I never skated backwards my whole life. I never worked on it. We never used to work on it. I was a centerman my whole life. It sounds crazy, but so got 10% battery. That's what that was. So Constantine, I'm in the doghouse with him a little bit, trying to figure out this left wing lock. I have my stomach issue. And then they traded for Vyacheslav Butsayev and Dean Lombardi. We were playing in Philadelphia. I'll never forget it. Oh my God, I was pissed off. I wanted to kill him. And I shouldn't say that. I was so mad at him. Like, and it wasn't what he did was bad. He felt bad for me. I walked past him and he didn't say anything, just like, tough luck, kid. Because I wasn't playing to what they needed. So they make this trade. So then I'm a healthy scratch. And I was mad at him for doing it, but it was like, he wasn't being, I knew I was getting replaced.
Yeah.
That's, so healthy scratch in the island. Next game's in St. Louis. The weirdest thing ever. Butsayev is going into the corner with his stick out in front of him. The tip of his blade hits right where the stanchion and the top of the boards are, and gets caught. And then he skates in, and the butt end of his stick hits him in the neck. And his whole stick, bow and arrows, it takes his neck, and it snaps his head back. I've never seen it. It's the only time I've ever seen it. So he's out. So I'm back in the lineup. So I'm like, screw this. I'm just going to go play. Team wins a couple of games. We have our game in Sacramento. Dr. Ting comes in. True story. Dr. Ting, the orthopedic surgeon for the team. Bakes, come on in here. Lays me down on the training table. He goes, I was just at an orthopedic conference. He sticks his fingers right in, more in my pubic area than in my groin area on my right side. And he goes, lift your right leg. And I do it. And he goes, how's that? And I'm like, sore, but okay. Lift your left leg. How's that? I said, sore, but okay. Lift both legs. And I couldn't lift them. He goes, you have a sports hernia. So it wasn't my groin. So now we've actually diagnosed what I needed. He goes, you need surgery at the end of the year. So I didn't practice most of the rest of the year. Nobody knew this. I had practiced a little bit, but I was dealing with a sports hernia, and finished, and that was year, but got in. And then the other signature thing that team did, as we came down the stretch, we played 3 units of 5 because Larionov's line had their 2 defense. So they set it up with the same thing with Alex line and then my line. So with I was with Jane Moore and Cronin. So not many teams did that. The other thing no one knows about that team, they don't really talk about it. 84 games back there, back then.
Yeah.
With the 2 neutral site. It was in Sacramento. It was the neutral site game. That's where I got diagnosed with the sports hernia. So, and then they put me on like 800 milligrams or something of anti-inflammatories and whatever. So, but the last 42 games of the year, we had the 5th best record in the NHL. So as much as we were an underdog of 1-8, we were 0-8-1 to start the year. So we were better than everybody was touting us. We also had, I think we might have had the last half of the year, we had the longest unbeaten streak, 7-0-2. So we were not a fluke. Everyone looked at us like an 8 seed, but we played more like a 3-4 seed. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. And
we'd been in every game was close. So we've been playing for our playoff lives. So going into the series, our whole mantra was keep it close going into the 3rd period. That's our comfort zone. Like that's what we've been doing now for 70 games. These guys have been running up the score. So it was kind of like what Tampa went through last year. They were running up the score so much that they didn't really know what to do in consecutive games when it's a close game coming down the stretch.
It's so funny that you bring up Larionov because, well, I'll end with this, and I don't know if you are aware of this or not. When we spoke to Drew Remendo a while back, he talked about how him and Constantine, like, they didn't even want to look at film after Game 6. It was just, it was not good. I think he went to go see like a Tigers game or something.
Right.
And but what he said was that I guess Constantine at some point said, I need pucks and Sharpies, and he gave every player a puck and you're doing it for this person, or you're going to give this person a puck or whatever, and that fired up the team, got everybody going. And then evidently, I think on the plane or something, Remendez said that Larionov said, "Hey, Drew, come here. Tell him that's not going to fucking work again." It got everybody fired up, but you can only do it once.
Right? It's true. He's the best. The professor.
Oh, man. Well, thank you so much for being so candid and joining us tonight. I really appreciate it. I hope you
Thanks, AJ.
Stay healthy, stay safe,
You
and
too,
hopefully we see some hockey really soon.
Yeah, with gratitude.
Absolutely.
Go Sharks.
Thank you.